Okay, so this is my spoiler review of Mindhunter Season 2. So jumping into this, when I'm watching Mindhunter, a show like this, I'm always wondering, okay, the big director of this show always is David Fincher. How many episodes is Fincher going to do? So I always sit through the credits to see who's going to be behind the camera here. And Fincher does episode 1, 2, and 3. And disappointingly, he did not do the finale this time, which was strange to me. Usually the big director in a series does at least the opener and the finale, so you could tell a little downside in quality in the finale, in my opinion there, and I think that's a result of that. But jumping into this with this season, it's such a strange feeling I got watching this season of Mindhunter, because episodes 1 through 5 were majestic, and I mean, I was just in heaven. I loved it. I thought it was some of the best television I've ever seen. And what it did was the beginning was really good at writing all these characters and making so much sense of what they were saying from their perspective, whether it was from Wendy referencing stuff about homosexuality and those little meetings they'd have from her experiences, but they don't know she's that. And same with Bill Tench talking about just children and how, oh, you got to give a break to someone when they're younger, thinking about his son. So they did a really good job with that. And if season 1 was about Holden Ford, season 2 was more about Bill Tench. And I liked that. I think that was really cool because the actor of Bill Tench, Holt McCallany, really stepped it up here. He was awesome. He's a treat to watch, and he also has great comedic timing as well. I think he can go as one of those people who, his character, Bill Tench, is one of the most likable characters I've seen in a show to date, so that's always a treat. And what makes this show always strong is that you have 3 strong leads in Jonathan Groff, Anna Torv, and Holt McCallany. Now, what ended up happening here was, to me, episode 2 and 5 were excellent, 2 being really good, and 5 being an absolute masterpiece. Now, it's kind of expected because episode 2 had Son of Sam. Episode 5 had Manson, and a surprise with adding Tex in there, which I thought was awesome. And what was really weird about it was it almost felt like a follow-up to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, especially because the same actor who plays Charles Manson in both. But that did not disappoint, and they hyped it up well in the show itself, the whole Manson thing, and it really was great. Now, it felt so weird because it was like you had the best moments of the season there, and then once episodes 6 through 9 happened and they solely focused on the Atlanta story, it lost a little bit of feeling like Mindhunter. It felt like a good crime TV show. It felt like a season of True Detective. It's good. It's good at doing that, but it was like, is this the same show I just watched in the first half of the season? Because it just completely shifted how it kind of runs things, and I don't think it was super effective because there's so many shows like that, and what made Mindhunter stand out from the rest was it was unique in the whole interview aspect, and that's when it's the strongest. Now, it was really good in season 1 getting us into the mind of Ford, and this season was more about Bill Tench and Wendy, but Wendy's story fell flat, and Bill Tench's story about his son was way too much screen time. Like, they kept going back to the wife and the kid a lot, and it was kind of just beating a dead horse, like constantly reminding us the mother's state of mind. And yeah, I get it that it was going to end with, oh my God, Bill's so focused on his job and he's losing his family, and he knows that in the end, and that ends up happening. But it was kind of repeating itself in a way, and just too much of it, where it was just kind of becoming a little too heavy on the characters, and that could also take away when you're doing that too much, especially if it's not the most interesting stuff, which it really wasn't, and especially with Wendy's story. I mean, that was a cut and paste love story from anything you've seen 100 times over, especially with the kid and then her exiting the other door, and it didn't feel earned the moment with them in the phone booth, because it was actually, as slow as her story was, it was also really rushed in the timeline of things. For the viewer, it was like, wait, they're already this serious, and all of a sudden they're already talking about why they can't be together anymore, and it didn't even get a chance to breathe and develop that love. So I thought that was really weak, and it was really weird that they just ended it there with Wendy, and I thought the first couple episodes built up really well Wendy and Agent Smith, the fourth wheel here, because they started doing interviews, which I thought was perfect for their characters. and I think it gave Wendy something more to do, and then they just completely dropped that and went towards her backstory, and Agent Smith disappeared. That also includes the boss. So the new boss, Gunn, I really liked his addition to this cast because I think he was a great centerpiece to see how everyone reacts around someone like him, and it was bringing out better character moments of everybody, and this like looming mysterious man who we didn't really know his intentions, which I thought was very interesting. But they ditched him too. I mean, that was built up well, especially when he was telling Wendy like he doesn't want her doing interviews, and he was creepy towards her at the party. So they kind of just ditched it, and it felt like, I don't know, it just felt like the rug was pulled beneath those storylines they developed in the beginning and just fully went into Atlanta. Now, it wasn't that Atlanta was bad. It was still good, and I mean, there was brilliant moments, especially when Ford is talking to the Atlanta monster in his living room. That was a really standout scene for me. And when they found him at the bridge, it was very exciting. But again, it just felt like you just were getting a different show and not what you were kind of sold on in the beginning. And that almost I would suggest to someone who doesn't have much time to watch a lot of things, just watch 1 through 5. And I think Atlanta being a true story, obviously, it's not the most exciting way it ends. It kind of just ends where they get him, but there's not super justice there. And we've, again, seen those kind of like, that's it story endings, and that's one of those cases. And you obviously can't change it. It's history, but why make that the whole second half of the season? It just doesn't make any sense to me. And I thought at least with the Atlanta Monster, we'd get like a legit interview into his psyche by Ford and Tench, and we did not. Yes, they were questioning him at the end, but it still wasn't that Mindhunter-esque feel, and that was really the whole point of this show, and just kind of became a goose chase. So that was really strange to me. But I actually would say, besides the Manson and Son of Sam scenes, I'd argue even the best scene of this season was in the episode where actually they're hitting on the BTK killer, which they're always showing in the beginning since season 1, when Tench is talking to the boy who was shot by him but survived a BTK scenario, and when he's in the back seat, that was like really just amazing acting by Holt and McCallany, because that's like Emmy-worthy stuff, and that scene just had me on the edge of my seat. And that's what I'm talking about, where like, to rate this season, you could see on a site like Rotten Tomatoes, right, it's got 100% Mindhunter Season 2. Does it deserve that? Hell no. But you might say that from the first 5 episodes, but the problem is when they send these screeners out, you know, these critics, they're reviewing so much stuff, they didn't have time to watch the whole season yet, especially because they didn't send out to a lot of press the screeners for Mindhunter. So they're watching the first 3-4 episodes and are probably like, oh, this is great, giving it 100. But that's not representative of the actual what happened in this season. It was kind of like masked with such a good top that the reviews came out great. But if you actually dig into the reviews of people who watched the whole season, I think most are on the same page, right? I mean, that's what I felt like. The second half was just really disappointing. And when you're rating it, it's tough because I look at the first half and think it's just masterful, and then the second half's just dull. So to weight it, it's got to bring points down, right? So, and then I have to compare it in my head to season 1, because that's what we do with shows, right, with seasons. And season 1, I gave a 9 in my review. You can check that review out. This season, I'm actually going to give it an 8.9, because I really thought, I was like, oh yeah, I was sold. Season 2 is way better than season 1 halfway through. And then 6 and 7 dragged it up. I'm like, whatever, it's going to happen. But then it was a little bit of a letdown the last 2 episodes as well, because I was like, we're still in Atlanta here. We're still just doing this and really nothing else. And this weird Wendy story's just kind of not connecting to the plot well. And I don't know. I thought that was really weird. And yeah, and I'm sure people, I feel like it's polarizing the whole kid thing, because it's a little like The Omen. And it's, again, I think anytime you bring in shows like a kid and give them too much screen time, and it wasn't started off with that in the show, it's dangerous waters. I think it always can just get people a little like, ugh, you know, and like a show like Bloodline, when I had the kid in season 2 and it kind of dropped down. I don't know many times when you add a kid as a spotlight and it brings a show up. It's very rare. It's hard to do, unless it's already a show or movie that's centered around the kids and that's established from the beginning. So that was frustrating. I think I'm just seeing a lot of shows now. If you watch my Handmaid's Tale review, I say the same thing, where like there's this weird thing going on where there's so many shows coming out and it feels like there's a disconnect from episode to episode. And I feel like that for this show, it just happened from first half to second half. Like it just felt like a different show. And I'm so curious why that keeps happening recently, and I don't know if it's just, I would say it's usually because of time and rushing, but this is 2 years we waited for this to come back. So it's a little disappointing to just kind of go the lazy route the second half, and you had some gold they were setting up. I mean, that BTK stuff's really interesting too, and I get they weren't going to go all on Manson, and that's fine. I didn't expect that, but maybe give another scene or two about BTK from the detectives' perspectives. Maybe give us just a little bit of backstory about Holden again. I know he had the main spotlight last season, but he is still the most interesting character, and to not progress his character that much at all this season is really super disappointing because he is our main character. And I just wonder, like, okay, so what, are we going to wait another 2 years and then what? Like, now what show is it going to be? Is it going to be interviews, or are we going to just have True Detective 2.0? Like, so that's frustrating. But again, I'm going to give it an 8.9. It still doesn't take away from how good the beginning was. You have to give props to that. And again, episode 5 and 2, whew, top to bottom, just what a treat. So let me know what you thought of this one down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this one. And please follow me at Steve Varley 1 on Twitter and Instagram for more of me. And please make sure to subscribe. I do a bunch of shows, movie reviews, and interviews with celebrities themselves. And make sure to give this a like, and I'll see you next time.